What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of This Old Hoopty, where I take this piece of crap and try and make it a little more pretty, I hope. We're going to start this video off with crap that gets in the way. So, we're working on the truck. We're working on learning how to paint a mural over here. I'll show you that stuff in a minute. Actually, since we're right here, start with that. I've never painted a mural in my life, but my daughter wants a galaxy theme on this truck, so in my eyes that's going to have a galaxy paint job on the tailgate. So I'm practicing painting these galaxy scenes. Basically, I was practicing the planet on this one, and the shooting stars kind of suck, the stars kind of suck, so we move on to practice number 2. Happy with the planet, happy with the galaxy look. The stars came out much nicer, as you can see. It's kind of hard because I got some glare from the lights on both sides here. But I think try number 3 will be where we need to be, and then I can start working on add-ons, which is going to be the second type of planet, a crackle planet. Okay, so when I finished messing around with this painting, and I went over here to grab my next piece out of the pile, I noticed this. That's always fun. We have a leak, you guessed it, coming from the water heater, or just behind it. I am by no means a plumber, just like I'm by no means a body shop. Just have to sweat those things or whatever. That's right, Amazon is your friend. We bought all the fittings, and we bought a press fit kit. I'm gonna clear all this out of here, and I'm going to, if this water heater is broken, I'm gonna swap it out for a brand new water heater. The electrical stuff I'm fine with. That's actually things that I understand. Plumbing really can't be too hard to cut some copper, pull it out, and put 2 new pieces of copper in there. So that's not a problem. And if the leak is coming from behind it, where the bathroom shower is, we'll deal with that. That's also not too complex. That will be in another video underneath my home DIY or home, what is it? I think it's home renovation playlist or whatever. I'll leave the link somewhere in this, here somewhere. Back to the truck. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you'll have noticed that I already received the visors that were reupholstered in the same fleece material. I gave another couple yards over to the upholsterer, and I had them do the headliners. They remade all of the interiors of these as well, something that I did not know how to do, didn't know where the parts were from. So, and for the price that I paid, it's not even worth doing it myself, and they did a phenomenal job on them. So when we get back to the interior of the truck, we'll get these bolted in and have some nice visors. Quite happy how those came out. Let's get back to our paint prep. One of the best parts about busting your butt in the garage, super hot, is extra carbs. We're gonna burn these right off. Eggs, and I don't even know what the hell these things are called, but they're delicious. Getting closer to paint. Front corner panels are prepped and ready. All right, let's get this cleaned up and primed. We'll let this dry off, get a second coat on here, and then we can put this off to the side. Alright, so with the bumper, there are so many rock chips that are all the way rusted through, and you got rust coming through underneath the primer here. So I'm going to take this whole thing back to steel. Just going to put you on the tripod and have at it. So as you can see here, there's actually rust underneath the primer. So once I've taken the entire thing back to the steel, I'm going to coat the steel and try and convert any of the rust that's left, and then give it a self-etching prime. And that should hold over until I paint this.
So I ran out of wire wheel, so I'm using what I got left in my drawer. Budget work, you use what you got.
Wash this off real quick with a little Prep All wax and grease remover. Then we'll get some self-etching primer on it and let it sit.
All right, we'll let the etching primer completely cure on here.
All right, we got our quarters back on. We got our cowl and primer. We got our bumper and primer ready to go. And now the other one. For those following along, we have self-etching primer on the bumper because I had a bunch of different little rust spots and blisters and whatnot that I took all the way off. So we did Rust-Oleum self-etching primer for those. For the billet inserts, we're doing standard automotive primer from Rust-Oleum. Pretty much everything across the board is going to be Rust-Oleum, including the paint job on the truck. The only thing that's not Rust-Oleum will be the flake and the clear coat when we get there.
All right, standard primer on these bad boys.
Okay, on to the last two pieces. Took all the bolts and the little clips. As you can see, they were all rusted out. And that's the pieces that held on the billet. Put them in some white vinegar. We're gonna let that sit for a few days while I refinish these last two pieces. This grill here has a nice crack. You can see it right here. So we're going to take our crack repair kit or our plastic welding gun, and we're going to weld a couple little pieces right here. That's going to lock this piece together, and then we'll get this all scuffed up top and bottom, and we'll get this shot into primer like everything else. Let's get these last two pieces hooked up. Okay, we're going to get our plastic welder to heat up. We've got the smallest tips, and we're going to put two right in here, which should hold this together nice and tight. And then we'll refinish off the rest of the grill. I'll leave the description for this. I'll leave the link for this in the description below if you're interested. Let's get this fixed up. All right. Just gonna put my finger underneath it and make sure the crack is completely flush. Okay, you can see the light is on here, it's red. Once that's red, it's ready to use. You'll pull the trigger, hold it down, this will turn bright red, and then we're gonna insert it across the crack. Here we go. The light will turn off, and this is heating up. We'll let go of the trigger. Hopefully you guys can see that. And we'll pull it off. There we go. Nothing came through the other side. Same thing. We're gonna put this in the end. Make sure our LED is red. That means it's ready to go. We're gonna pull the trigger. That's gonna heat this up. Then we're gonna put it right next to the other one here. Make sure I don't get in the way. I'm gonna put this right next to the other one. You can see this is nice and hot and smoking. We're gonna push it in. There. All right, nothing came through the other side, so we're solid. We'll let this cool off. Once these are completely hardened, we're just gonna bend the posts back and forth and they should pop off. Here's a close-up of what we did. This is nice and flush underneath it. There's no damage. We'll be able to sand this and get it all clean on the other side. And over here, these pieces are permanently inside here. So just gonna bend these back and forth. There's two. There we go. Flip it over and get those little bits of garbage out. And now we've got a solid piece here. Found a couple other little cracks here. There's one right here. So we're gonna run another piece of metal across the back here. And this is starting to structure or fracture right here. So I'm gonna run another piece of metal across here. That should stop that. And this will allow the bolt to go through here without popping this open every time, making it worse. It'll get stuck together. So let's get those fixed up really quick, and we can move on. I think this was like $25, something like that. Totally worth it, considering the fact that if this was all cracked up and you had to get another one, you can either repair the cracks and paint it, or you can buy another one of these for 100 or 150 bucks. So definitely worth it. There. Okay. And now let's get the one across the top here. Alright, to the top, we're going to do the back side here. And just do it very carefully. There. Okay, so you can see we've got one locking this top part here together, and we've got one locking all of these little cracks right there together. Nothing came through on this side, as you can see. So we'll knock these little nubs off really quick, and we'll flip it over and start sanding. Okay, good to go. Dawn dish soap, red scuff pad. Let's get this scuffed up. The grill's now down to 220. Let's let this cake bake in the sun for a little bit. Okay, we've got our parts all scuffed up, sanded down where they need to be. We've got everything cleaned up with some wax and grease remover after washing it outside with some Dawn dish soap. Let's grab our filler primer. Like I said, we're going to be doing Rust-Oleum everything. Okay, we've got our Rust-Oleum filler primer. Should do quite well, covered all the green. It's gonna go easy to go from gray to black. We'll let this cure up and then we'll knock it down with 400 to get rid of any of the little rough areas. So a couple little places where it's a little thicker than others, nothing really big. But that 400 will take it right down. All right, let's let this cure up. All right, so we're dealing with a 20-year-old truck, and we've got these door pins that squeak and grind and make noise. Mine aren't actually out of alignment or anything, but they do squeak and grind as you're opening and closing them. So before it gets too bad, we're gonna replace it. Let me show you the parts that we're gonna be using. All of these parts will be linked in the description below, so if you guys need them, go down there and get them. And let's get to it. So here's what we got. We got a spring compression tool. We got 2 of the door roller pins. One for this side, one for that side. We're gonna do them both at the same time while we got our quarter panels off. We got 2 brand new springs because why not? These springs have been in there forever. We're gonna replace them. I bought a kit with the replacement hinge pins. It also comes with these bushings. I went and bought the heavy duty bushings from Jeremy at Cunningham Machine. The link will be in the description for those as well. These are not only highly recommended, but they seem to be the best option to replace in these trucks. So these will go off to the side, but I will be using the pins. Now, to get the roller pin portion here off, we're gonna put that in our little friendly Sawzall, and we're gonna take the top of this right here off. All right, hopefully you guys got a good view of this. We're taking the head off of right here. As you saw, that took a few seconds. Bang it out. It instantly takes off. So let's take that spring out. Now that we've got that head shaved off, I'm gonna pop the door open. And I'm gonna take this spring out really quick. Should have actually taken the spring out ahead of time, but now that I've got that shaved off, I'm gonna pop this spring out really quick. That way I can move the lever here and slide the whole pin out. Now, since I'm actually replacing the springs, we're gonna do a quick and dirty removal. I'm just gonna pop them out from underneath the hinge here. I don't recommend doing this. I recommend using the removal tool, which I'm going to use to put it back in. But since we are doing things fast here, we just pull down on that. It takes 10 seconds. And here is our spring. Let's hammer out our roller pin and get that replaced. There we go, nice and easy. As you can see, this is squeaky and damaged, so we're gonna replace that bit. Let's get that out of the way. And there we go. So now I just need to remove my shaved door handle connections here. I'll splice them back together when I'm done. And then the door is separate other than the pins. So that way we can move everything out and get these pins changed. I'm just taking the pressure off the door. I'm going to cut these 3 wires, which are for my shaved door handle kit. I've already unplugged the 2 harnesses, and then I'll be able to pop these hinge pins out and remove the... I'm going to be painting the inside of these doors, and I'm also going to be painting the inside of the door frame here. So I want to remove the entire door, that way I can have access to it for sanding and painting. So let's get these clipped and taped. Now I didn't clip them over here because it's a lot easier for me to do the repair back inside here and hide it behind the door panel. I've already removed the door roller. Now I'm going to take the little clip off the top here, drop this pin. I'm going to take the clip off the bottom of this one and pull this pin. So to get these 2 little clips off, which hold these pins in from the manufacturer, I just slid something very sharp in between the 2 and made a little space. And then I took a flathead screwdriver and pried it up. And then both of these came off quite easily, just like that. Now I'm going to quickly do the bottom one, and then I'll click you back on. All right, let's get this pin out. Now that we've got the bottom pin tapped up, the top pin is loose enough to push out with our finger. We're going to increase the tension slightly on the jack, and I'm going to have my helper hold the door so I can pop those 2 pins out and completely remove the door. Can loosen this for 1 second. All right, now that we got these off, let's take a quick look at the bushings. As you can see, this one right here is cracked. Let me get something to point that out here. This is cracked. So over time, that cracking ends up eating away at your pin, and then that's what makes the door start wobbling and go off at an angle. You can see right here, here's a piece of it, and that's from this piece right here. It's cracked off the bottom. So it's good that we got to these before they were even worse. The bottom ones here, there's no bushings in these. The bushings are actually in the doors. So for those of you who are going to be doing this, do not drill these out and put the bushings in the bottom hinge here. The bushings that go on the bottom are going to be in the door itself. So let's change the ones on the top here. Let's change the ones on the bottom in the door, and then we can get this door reassembled. All right, it doesn't matter which bushings you're using, the heavy duty ones from Cunningham Machine, or if you're using the cheap ones that come from Amazon or anywhere else. It really doesn't make a difference as far as this point. The point is you're going to have a smaller piece for the top and a larger piece for the bottom. And it's pretty obvious which one's which. You can just slip them like this, and one of them will go to the bottom and one of them will stay at the top. That's how you know which one is which. So this is going to go in like this, larger bushing on the bottom, smaller bushing on the top, and it comes in from the bottom for the top piece. The bottom one obviously goes in the opposite way. So the bushings are going to be in the door the opposite way. We'll get to that when we get there. For now, let's get these. This from the bottom. There we go. All right, top one's out. Now let's do the bottom. And the bottom one here is going to go from the top down. And this one, as you can see, is just literally falling apart as I hit it. There we go. All right, one down, one to go. All right, good as new. All right, let's do a quick comparison between the OEM, the OEM replacement, and then the Cunningham machine heavy duty ones. As you can see, the ones that I took out are shattered, and they were shattered prior to me removing them, so it's a good thing we got to them. And you can see they are pretty close. They're actually a little bit thinner than the aftermarket ones. Right here. So these will probably hold, I would guess, but these here are thicker in every way. If you look at the front, you can see that they're slightly thicker. If you compare them from the side, see if I can get that to focus, you can see that they are thicker. And then you have the material itself that these gold ones or brass ones are made out of, hence the ability to be able to just tap them in with a hammer like I did. If you guys fast forwarded through the portion where I said I'm going to be working on this in 3 sections because I have a ton of other stuff that I'm working on at the same time. I did the front clip. Everything on this front clip, hood included, is ready for paint. Now I'm doing the center section here. The center section is going to be the removal of the doors, swapping out of the hinge pins and the roller pins. I'm going to mask this off, sand it, prime it, get this painted black so it matches the interior. We're going to fix any damage on this side here. We've got some a couple little rust holes that I widened out to get rid of any of the majorly damaged area. I've sanded it down, coated it with some rust converter, and then that's going to be bondoed, filled, and primed as well. And we'll do the same thing on the other side if there is any. I didn't see any holes there, but if there is, we'll get to that. Once we're done with that, then we can pull the bed, and we're actually going to paint the front section and get it ready. So I'm kind of just giving you the layout as I'm going here so you understand my timing of why I'm doing this. While the bed's off, I've got a lot of work to do on the back corners here, so I'm going to do that actually off of the truck. And during that time frame, the rear suspension should come in. I'm doing bags, so I should have all of the metal for the 4-link suspension that's going into the rear, and I'll be putting that on as soon as we're done with the paint. We'll get the suspension on, and we'll keep moving forward. Let's get back to it. Took a roll of automotive tape, back rolled the entire frame here, took all the rubbers off, put them in here. I'm gonna take a little plastic, cover this up, put a second layer of tape on here, then we're gonna start sanding and doing the work here so I don't destroy the interior that we completed. For those of you who want a quick peek, take a look at my previous videos and you'll see what we did inside here. 31 mil or 0.31 mil painter's plastic is what I had laying around. All right, we're nice and sealed off. Now let's scuff this up and get it all washed and clean so we can get this coated black. From cameraman to ice lemonade, my boy is awesome. Anywhere where I've got little flakes of the paint, just taking a razor blade, peeling it back to an area where I can sand it flush. So for instance like that, just get the peeling paint off until it stops flaking, and then we'll feather it in like so, and a little primer will cover that right up. To work, because I got to do here, across the front here, and a couple spaces over here. So let me get that done, and I'll click you back on when this is sanded and ready to prime. Okay, sanded everything down with 220. The door jamb is ready for primer. All right, we've got the door jamb and primer. It's looking good. We're gonna keep moving on, working on this center section here today. Got a couple little rust holes here. Already sanded this down with some 80 grit, little grease and wax remover. Get some body filler, fill this up. Gonna knead up the hardener really quick. Give this a little mix, slightly separated. There we go. Mix this up. Since I'm filling up a hole here and here, this will definitely need 2 coats. The first one of what's gonna end up being 2 coats. Building this up a little bit. Now I'm gonna completely build this up so I can shape it back into the corner. Same thing with this. I built up the 2 little pockets that are in there. Now we're gonna completely cover this area and then we'll build this back and flatten it out. All right, I'm gonna rasp this down just to flatten out all the big spots, and then we'll get it ready to work with some sandpaper. Just trying to give it the shape right now, that's all. All right, now the rest of this I'm gonna work with sandpaper. Just get the garbage in between here, it's easier with this. All right, now we'll continue working it down with some 80 grit, trying to keep that shape. Our holes are gone, our damage is gone. Now we're just looking to form the panel to match what it was. As you can see, we're working the shape here, trying to keep everything lined up. So we don't want to take it past where the body line is. So this area is pretty good. We're just going to feather this in here. All right. I can feel a little dip right here. So we're gonna need a little bit more, build this back up right here. This has got a little dip in it, and that's gonna show as a wave. We're almost there. This is perfect up here. And then it dips right here. So we're gonna need to add to here.